All right, so for my curriculum unit plan, my title of my unit plan was Flower Names and Arrangements. So I said the term delivered for this would be probably around the third quarter, and the subject area is agriculture. This was probably going to be an elective class. I said my grade level would be around 6th through 8th grade. It would be a middle school class. And then since the typical block schedule for middle school is around 90-minute class periods, I said around 4 days, and about 90 minutes per day would be about how long this lesson would be. And the domain is in agribusiness systems. Just kind of an overview. I said that students will be able to recognize common and scientific names of flowers, and just as some notes, maybe have to extend, maybe add a day or so to just to allow adequate time for the students to be able to work on their projects. And some homework assigned would be maybe some literary material, practice worksheets, etc. So for the standards, so the cluster would be under the constructive floral design cluster. And so for the first standard, students will be able to verify flowers by common and scientific name. For the second standard, they'll be able to assemble a floral arrangement. And then for the third one, they'll be able to develop a marketing plan. Alrighty, and then so for some of the evidence-based learning here, I just have some of the formative assessments like gathering in groups and think, pair, share, assessing individual scores at the end of some of the Mentimeter presentations, which will be kind of it's kind of like a PowerPoint, but with a game kind of built in with it, like a mixture of PowerPoint and Kahoot. So that's how I would be presenting the information to my students. And then for my summative, I have that ties it all in, and with everything is going to be a final presentation for this lesson, at least for this unit, in which they present their floral design and their marketing plan to the class. Right, and then some of the instructional strategies, just like for time and materials, just kind of making sure the class is organized, so that way save time. Also, maybe have some of the papers cut out that they'll be using, pre-cut out, so that way it kind of helps with time there, and we don't waste as much time doing that. Here's some just kind of connections to other classes, like connections to economics to with the basic marketing plan, etc. Just an overview of the lesson. Alrighty, and then so for my lesson plan, I said that I guessed about maybe 15 students in my class, about two ESE students in my class, one of those being gifted, and then two ELL students in my class as well. So I said that for this first one, this is the verified flowers by common and scientific name. I said their objectives, they'll be able to identify all 7 of the different species of flowers to an 80% passing level. And then the summative assessment I just said was, like I said, was the big project at the end of this unit. Some of the strategies for ESOL students, I said just like have them sit close to the front, maybe work with some of the other students, keep the directions short and concise for them, etc. Materials, I said providing real and fake flowers of the 7 species, the roses, tulips, daffodils, daisies, sunflowers, amaryllis, and morning glories. And then also some of the reading material that they might have to use that I might provide, the Mentimeter presentation once again, and then so their student scientific journals, which they'll actually be they'll start with that at the beginning of the semester, which is where they'll take down their notes and do some of their work inside that, where they'll leave it there in class, and so that way I can assess through that as well. I'll check that. Instructional strategies using the Mentimeter, like I said. So for differentiated instruction for ELL and ESE and gifted students, I just said basically just maybe some like providing visuals for the ELL students, provide written notes, partially pre-written notes, and maybe for the gifted student, for the advanced student, pair them up with the other students to help them, or create a practice quiz, etc. For the introduction to the unit, I said I would start off with passing around real examples of the flowers to the table, so that way they get an upfront visual of them, kind of get to see some of the characteristics of those flowers. And then I said for some of the higher order questions, I said that they could rank. I could have them rank the smell of flowers from 1 to 7, which ones they liked the most, which ones they didn't. Create a poem about the characteristics of those flowers. And I said that would take about 15 minutes. All right, and then instruction, the I do portion, I said would take about, I guess about 30 minutes for this portion, where I would use a Mentimeter to present the information about the flowers, the scientific names, common names, how to recognize those, and then once again, those questions acting as a game throughout the presentation, which I will be analyzing as part of my formative assessment. Alrighty, and then for the We Do guided practice, I said it would be about 20 minutes for this, where they'll think, pair, share. Students will individually choose a flower species, one of the 7 that I provide. They'll pair together with a partner, and then they'll compare and contrast those characteristics of those flowers. And then we'll come collective again as a class, and they'll share some of their comparisons, contrasts of those flowers with me, and we'll write it up on the board. And then I'll use that T-chart written on the board for comparing and contrasting them as part of also my formative assessment. And then for the independent you do practice and elaboration, I said this would take about 20 minutes, and I said they'll have cutouts of the 7 flowers, and they'll paste them into their scientific journals, and then they'll write the scientific and common names of those flowers, since we took notes on those during class and learned about those in class. All right, and then for my wrap-up and closure, I just said there would be just one final slide on the Mentimeter, in which they'll identify the one of the flower species learned that day, both by using the scientific common names and through a given description of the flower, since they kind of recognize some of the characteristics in the class earlier. And then the formative assessment would be their final answers to those. All right, and then my summative, like I said, will just be that final project. Remediation, I just said maybe some homework. I'll go over the homework at the beginning of the next class to see what was understood, what was misunderstood. Maybe send home some practice material, practice sheets. Alrighty, and then for the second unit plan, I said that students would be able to demonstrate understanding of how to arrange flowers in a simple floral arrangement and develop a basic marketing plan. And then their summative assessment will be the poster at the very end of the lesson. Once again, same ESOL strategies, their materials. In this case, they'll change a little bit, in which they'll have the vases to make their floral arrangement with artificial flowers. I'll provide artificial flowers for the students for their project. And then vocabulary, this is going more over the arrangement, such as color scheme, the culture, the season in which you would use certain flowers, and then like the cultural meaning of those flowers. And then for the marketing plan, such as cost, like how much their floral arrangement is going to cost to make. I'll have little given prices on each flower, and they'll add up the prices of those flowers. And then they'll figure out how much they need to charge through pricing for their arrangement, and then they'll figure out how much profit they made off of that. They'll also discuss like a basic advertising, how they'll advertise it, whether through a commercial or a window display, etc. Alrighty, once again, using another Mentimeter to convey the information to the students. Okay, so the introduction for this, I said they would begin by discussing the homework. We'll discuss the homework, go over any confusing portions, which will lead into the previous class material. We'll kind of do a review of that. And then this would lead into the Mentimeter presentation. And I said this would take around 30 minutes, 15 minutes per half here, the review, and then 15 minutes for going over the homework. All right, and then the instruction and explanation, the I do part, I said this would take about 2 class periods. So about 2 days for this. And I said using the Mentimeter to go over first how to design a floral arrangement, such as how flowers mean culturally, the occasion that they would use these flowers in, such as a wedding or a party, etc. Depending on the species, the color, everything like that. And then the next day would be into the next class period would be talking about the process for selling it through the marketing plan, just a basic one, like I said, cost, advertising, stuff like that. Formative assessment would be I'll take a mental note of who kind of seems to be understanding it, who doesn't. Then I'll have questions throughout my Mentimeter that I can analyze later on. All right, and then for the guided practice, this will be part of it will be them answering the questions. through the game throughout the Mentimeter. And then later on, the guided practice, I'll help also when they're beginning to design their floral arrangement. I'll kind of help with that as well. As they're working on that, I'll walk around and help with answering any questions. And then same with designing their actual arrangement and their marketing plan. The formative assessment, I said I could have a bell ringer. Oh, sorry. And then for this portion back here, I said this would be around 60 minutes at the beginning of another class. And then at the beginning of that class would be a bell ringer. And then I said for the independent practice, I said it would be about 25 minutes. We'll begin with a review of the information covered in presentation. Once again, submit the responses to the bell ringer on the board, lead into instruction of how they'll be creating everything, and then about 5 minutes for the wrap up and closure. The exit slip will be the posters and their planning sheets for their actual arrangement. And so their independent practice will be actually creating the poster and their arrangement. That'll be the independent part. All right, and then the formative assessment for this, observing the products that they provide and their posters, how give them feedback at the end of the presentation, etc. And then the summative assessment, like I said, would be the presentation. So I'll be grading them based off of a rubric, which I have provided below. Remediation, once again, if they still don't seem to be getting it, maybe provide some help through guided practice, one-on-one sit down, maybe some tutoring, assistive resources, stuff like that to help them in any way. And then here's my basic rubric, just covering their floral arrangement, describing grading them on the floral arrangement, how well it was organized, whether they arranged them in a meaningful way, such as color scheme, stuff like that. And then and they can describe why they would use these colors or these flowers for this occasion. Their marketing plan, their poster, how complete it is, creative, colorful, and the presentation itself, on how well they conveyed their information. All right, and that's basically it. Thanks so much.